Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Dimes, a college basketball podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Jamie Shaw. Jamie, I have a sweater on, so it's finally 70 degrees in Baton
Sweater
Rouge.
weather.
Finally, I can join you over here.
Yeah, man.
Um,
It's been brutal here the last couple of days. Though it's raining and cold, and it's transitioning here
mm,
in the Carolinas. But it
the
just means
fall.
basketball season's right around the corner.
Yes, basketball season is here. Next podcast, I think when we preview the entire year and stuff, we'll probably talk a little bit about some of the scrimmages and stuff, but we have to get through the last conference preview on the docket, which is the Big Ten. Before we do that, I do really quickly want to mention Ty and Grant Foster being cleared to play at Gonzaga. Obviously, huge news for them and for him. Obviously, the health scares that he had, it just didn't really make sense that he wasn't going to be cleared. And so eventually it seems like he's going to be able to play this year for Gonzaga. So I did want to give a quick shout out to him and congratulations to him for being able to play this year.
That's a big deal. Ty and Grant Foster brings a factor to Gonzaga. He brings a second fiddle to the Graham Ekes of the world,
Yep.
who can come in and actually manufacture a bucket from the wing, 6'7", positional size, a scorer. That's across the national landscape, that is a story.
Yeah. All right. Big Ten. For those who haven't checked out our other ones, other conference previews, you can go check those out. We do our, top five first, and then we'll do our sleeper team, freshman of the year, coach of the year, and player of the year picks here. We have the same 1 and 2, and it's not the same 1 and 2 as everybody else. It's kind of like when we did the ACC one, where we both had Louisville over Duke. Both kind of contrarian. Both of us have Michigan 1, Purdue 2. And I think it speaks, at least for me, how high I am on Michigan this year. And it's not like a dig at Purdue. I still think Purdue is very, very, very good. But Michigan, I think, is also a top 5 team and also should be like in contention for like if we do preseason Final Fours. It wouldn't shock me if I have Michigan in mind. So I'll go to you. What makes Michigan the number 1 team in the Big Ten for you?
For me, I love the front court. I love the pieces they have in the front court. Yaxel Lindenberg, Ade Mara, Morez Johnson. I think that those three guys give you a ton of different looks. We saw Dusty May last year is not afraid to play through his bigs. In fact, he prefers to play through his bigs, and he has two guys with Ade Mara and Yaxel Lindenberg who can make decisions with the ball in their hand, and you can line them up in different spots on the floor and create advantages in that way. And then you have just a bruiser with Morez Johnson, a guy who thrives under the tough guy stuff, the things that other people don't like to do when it comes to physicality and rebounding and screening and finishing at the rim and all that. So I really like that trio of bigs that they have, the front court they have at Michigan. But then the backcourt they have some guys too. You look at the shot making abilities of Roddy Gale and Namari Burnett, guys on the wing who can make and create opportunities. I'm going to be curious. The curiosity I have with this team is going to be Elliot Cadeau. How does he fit in and what does he kind of do? If you're playing through your bigs, your best player, Yaxel Lindenberg, a guy who can make a decision with ball's hands, if you're playing through him, you need guys who can play off of him, who can either defend at the point of attack and who can shoot the three ball consistently. And Elliot Cadeau has not done either of those throughout his career. Now, he can play in the pick and roll incredibly well, so he gives you a different look when it comes to what he's able to do ball in hand, creating screens and playing in the half court. But also watch LJ Kaysen. He was awesome. USA Basketball, the U19 this summer, mini camp, one of the better performers there from the guard spot. And you also have Trey McKinney there also at the guard spot as well, ready to come in. And in his time, they don't need him to be great right away. But they need him to come in his time and be able to step in as well. So with Kaysen, Gale, Burnett, McKinney, Cadeau, and then the three bigs, I just really like the makeup of this team. I think Dusty May is able to give you different looks. They're able to play big. They're able to play small. And they're able to give you just so many different looks with experienced players and talent. I just really like what this Michigan team could be at the end of the year.
Yeah, the front court, I don't know if this is a hot take. I think I like this front court better than last year's in terms of Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden, who obviously were very good, and Wolf was fantastic with ball in his hands. Vlad was able to do a lot of things around the rim on both sides, and he was so imposing. But when you have these three between Mara Johnson and Yaxel Lindenberg, I just look at how they can punish teams in the front court, and I don't take too much away from the scrimmages or anything like that. But you look at when they played St. John's, and which was I believe it was yesterday, and the way that they out rebounded St. John's, I think it was 48-36. They're going to win on the glass every single night. They're going to win in the paint every single night. And like you said, they can do it in different ways to where Yaxel is kind of that hub guy. You can post, you can face up on the elbow, you can do things there. And then Morez Johnson, rim runner type, more obviously 7'3", 7'2", like imposing guy, and had 1.6 blocks per game in just 13 minutes per game
He can
last
really
year.
pass too now, so he's
Yeah.
a kind of unique cog as well.
Yeah. And so I just look at this front court and say, I don't know who's stopping them like consistently. And then you mentioned the guard play. If they just get adequate to good guard play, doesn't have to be elite. You don't need a bunch of guys that are going to make first team all Big Ten here. But I think this is enough to where I look at Michigan to say the defense will be very good again. And then offensively, I think you are multiple enough now with kind of Yaxel stepping into maybe that Danny Wolf type role. I'm not saying they're the same player, but and then Johnson and Mara just kind of filling in that 5 spot, just really, really imposing. So I have Michigan in my number one. I just believe in the front court quite a bit. So do you have anything else on them before we go to number two?
Yeah, no, I just think Michigan. This is a well put together roster. It's just the dynamic of Elliot Cadeau within the mix is just the only kind of real. It's not a question. I don't question Elliot Cadeau and his skill. I'm just curious as to how it's going to use and what it's going to look like when it comes to minutes wise and staggering the minutes and implementing LJ Kaysen in there as well. But I just really like this roster and the different looks, just the multiple looks they can give you.
Yeah. So number 2 team is Purdue here, the preseason number 1 in the AP poll. Obviously, the pretty much consensus pick to win the Big Ten this year. We have them number 2. I think just real quickly before I throw it to you here, this team is going to be awesome. They're going to score a ton of points. We know what they are. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, that group's back. They have a lot of talent. I'll let you go down deeper into the depth chart, but the offense is going to be fantastic. I'm interested to see, defensively, can they jump up from, they were 52nd last year in KenPom defensively. Where does that number fall this year? Is it top 20? Is it top 25? That's probably my first question when looking at this team.
My thing with Purdue is spacing. You look at what they have. They have Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and Fletcher Lawyer. Those three together really played out of the pick and roll well last year. You had obviously the Smith as the initiator, Kaufman-Renn as the roll guy, and then Fletcher Lawyer pulling the gravity as well. You know what they're going to bring. You know what they're going to do. It's about the other two spots now. So now up front, you have Trey Kaufman-Renn, you have Oscar Clough, you have Daniel Jacobson. Skill set wise, all three of those guys are kind of 5 men, including Kaufman-Renn. So it's going to be curious what it looks like, how they have two of those guys on the floor together, what the spacing looks like, and how that goes. And especially, too, if it's Clough and Kaufman-Renn, the lack of rim protection and kind of, movement when it comes to guarding and all that. So, and then you're going to need Jakari Harris and CJ Cox, one of those guys to step up and take the minutes at the other spot as well. I like the big trio that they have, the experience that they have there. Kaufman-Renn's an interesting one because of on the defensive side, he kind of stunts a little bit of what you're able to do when it comes to both movement and switching, and then also rim protection. Can you put him at the 4 and have Daniel Jacobson come in at the 5 and just drop coverage and play him at the rim the entire time? Possibly. And it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works when it comes to divvying up the minutes and the spotting at the 4-5 as well. And then CJ Cox and Jakari Harris both can play. They're both good. Will they be able to take the steps into what it is? CJ Cox kind of more of a secondary handler, point of attack defender. Jakari Harris a little bit more of a wing type of presence there. But what do they kind of bring into the mix? And you also have the freshman there come in as well with Mayer, and he's more of a pick and roll point guard, lead guard, and everything too. So kind of how he implements in with Braden Smith, whom I would have to assume might not be taken off the floor very often.
Yeah.
They have a lot of talent on this team, and obviously Matt Painter has done more than enough to prove himself as a coach of being able to get the best out of all the guys, put them into advantageous situations, and kind of make things happening. With the talent on the floor, my question is, like you, defensively, how do they guard and switch, and are they able to get enough stops, and secondarily the spacing? What does the spacing look like on the floor? And those are questions that we need to see kind of as the season progresses and how it grows there. But projecting, looking forward, those questions have me not have them quite as high as Michigan right now.
Yeah, I need to see Jacobson like for extended minutes here. Whether it's moving his feet, obviously making plays at that size. And then Clough, I mean, in 2 years in Division One, he averaged 0.9 blocks per game and 0.8 blocks per game. He's never been a real rim protector in that way. So making the move up to the Big Ten, it's not going to get any easier. That's the question marks. I do really quickly. I want to talk about just how good Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are, and Trey Kaufman-Rin. Like, that's a core that can make a Final Four on its own if everything. I mean, if things go right for them this year. And Braden Smith, best point guard in the country, one of the best players in the country, going to have complete control. Offensively, I just think this team is going to roll a lot of teams and just overwhelm a lot of teams. But it is going to be interesting to see them athletically and defensively, how they kind of match up with. I didn't mention this off the top. I meant to. Like, the Big Ten to me is clearly better than it was last year. Like, significantly better than it was last year. And so this is going to be a conference that's going to test them with guard play, with experience. Like we said, Michigan's got bigs down there they're going to roll out. So, Illinois' got bigs. I mean, a lot of these teams are going to be really interesting matchups for Purdue. Ultimately, their offense is going to be really, really good, and so it might not matter sometimes, but that is the question for me here. But I still think Purdue, I don't have a problem, like top 5 team in the country going into the year with the returning production that they have. It's just, again, we're nitpicking a little bit here as to why they're 2 and not 1. All right, we do have a discrepancy at number 3 here. You have UCLA, which is, I have them at 4, so not a huge difference, but you have UCLA at 3. I'll throw it to you. What has sold you about UCLA being the 3rd best team with Mick Cronin and his team this year?
I like their big 3. They return Eric Daly and Tyler Bilodeau. Bilodeau's a 6'10" guy, 40% from 3 on 4 attempts, leading
really
returning
good.
score, 13.5 a game. At the 4, then you have Eric Daly, a 6'8" lefty, who's operates in the mid range, can kind of toggle in between that 3 and 4 spot. 11.4 a game this past year, 38% from 3 on 2.5 attempts as well. Looking for those guys to kind of take steps forward as well. And then they got the prize point guard out of the transfer portal when it comes to Donovan Dent as well. The MWC Player of the Year, 20 a game, 6.5 assists. Add him into the mix. I really, really like the 3 kind of that they have. You can do a lot of things with those guys. The spacing is going to be there. You have Donovan Dent at the point of attack, being able to make decisions, but also create opportunities for himself as well as the team. You have the 2 big guys who can both space the floor, score in the mid-range, mid-post area, and do things like that. You bring in Steven Jamison and Xavier Booker, who can split minutes at the 5 when they want to go with a true 5. You have Sky Clark coming back, former 4-star recruit, who can play some on-ball stuff as well as a secondary type guy, but also score with what he's got. Jamar Brown comes in, who averaged 17 a game this past year. He's going to be an up transfer, so we'll see what kind of that looks like. But 17 a game at 40% from 3 at 6'5" shooting guard. Then you have the former 4-star recruits, Eric Freeney and Trent Perry, both coming in at the guard position as well. They have depth of talent. They have experience at the top. They have guys who kind of fit in their role. You know what everybody's role is on this team. You kind of know as to what everybody can do. And they have a depth of talent that can be multiple, that's backing up the starters. So their bench can come in multiple different roles, being able to play on ball, off ball, shoot the ball. You have bigs, multiple looks and all that. You know they're going to defend when it comes to Mick Cronin. The offensive stuff is there with the floor spacing, which is very intriguing for this Mick Cronin team. guys who have the upside of being able to shoot the ball from multiple positions as well. So the spacing should be very good for them too. Very intrigued to see what this UCLA team. I don't feel like many people are necessarily talking about them in that light. You see them across the top 25 type rankings and all that, but I don't know that people are necessarily really talking about them. With the upside as to what this team could potentially be, maybe even finishing higher than number 3 within this conference at the end of the year, provided everything comes together. But the pieces here, with the track record of Mick Cronin, the pieces that he put together on this team are very intriguing.
Yeah, I think obviously Donovan Dent. When you start with him, everybody loved him last year and throughout his career, just how amazing he was. 20 points per game last year, 6.5 assists. Uh, that is something that, and even last year's team, which I liked, if Donovan Dent works out the way that we think he can and will, because the jump from the Mountain West to the Big Ten, while it is a jump, it's not some leap. He's not coming from a JUCO or something like that. With him paired with Bildo, I think it just makes a lot of sense on paper how this team works out. Sky Clark, Daly, like you said, I just think they have enough here to safely be a top 4, top 5 team in the Big Ten. They finished the year 20th in KenPom. I think they're due to be significantly higher. You mentioned before we got on, you had UCLA closer to the top 2 than the rest of the field. Like that, you had a top 3, and UCLA is like clear cut there. I am interested to see if that ends up panning out. If they're clearly like, could they be 2? Could they be 1 in the Big Ten? Like, could everything work out to where they're a top 5 team in the country? I do think Donovan Dent gives them that ceiling, and Bilodeau is so steady. I loved watching him last year. Just really reliable. When they didn't have anything, they gave it to him, made plays. It's funny when I write out the stats, he only had 13.5 points per game last year. Like in my head, he was like a 16, 15 point per game scorer just because how much I feel like they just went to him when they needed a bucket. So, yeah, really impressive group here. Like you said, Mick Cronin's going to defend. So I could see them being top 20 in offense and defense this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I just really like the makeup of this UCLA team on paper.
All right, Illinois, I have them 3. You have them 4. Brad Underwood has a new look team this year, obviously having a couple players drafted. This is a really good test study for Brad Underwood. I think in a couple ways. Obviously, he's gone international. He's added all these international players. I think they posted on their social media. They asked, what language that the players will be speaking to each other, because they have all of the players from Yugoslavia, region over there and stuff. And so they were talking about that. But you have Tomislav Ivisic, sorry, Andrei Stojakovic. Then you have Big Z over there as well. I think you start with those 3, and that being your potential, 3, 4, 5, or maybe 3 and 2 of those guys are 5s. I think just the way that front court works out, and I've talked about Andrei Stojakovic before, coming over from Cal, and 18 points per game, and I think he actually has a lot more to his game than just scoring that I think will be proven this year, because they don't need him to score 18 points on this team. He's going to have to score, but not 18. Like, I think the playmaking will take a step forward. The defense will take a step forward. And when you have Big Z on the inside and Tomislav alongside him, I just think they have enough of a front court presence here. I know they return Kai Boswell as well, 31 minutes per game, 12 points, 3.5 assists. Ben whom I always forget. Yeah, Humrekis thing. 7.5 points, 4 rebounds. So they return enough talent. Obviously, Stojakovic is going to have to hit for them. But I just think, I kind of really like the front court here. I like what they have with Stojakovic and Boswell in terms of scoring upside. And with that, I think this is going to be another team that Brad Underwood has a lot of success with.
Yeah, the 2 things I like about this Illinois team is the depth and the offensive firepower. They're going to be able to get up and down. They're going to be able to run. They're going to be able to play incredibly fast. And they have a handful of guys who are able to play in that manner while also still giving different looks. As you mentioned, the Ivisic brothers, you have Tomislav and Zvonimir, Big Z coming over from Coach Cal at Arkansas. They can both stretch the floor, 7-1, 7-2-ish. They can both stretch the floor, make plays with the ball in their hand, and create advantages away from the basket, as well as being, big. You have Stojakovic, as you mentioned, coming in, averaged 17 a game this past year in the ACC. I think what you're going to see with him is with the talent around him, and you're going to be able to see the percentages, more efficiency coming from him. You're not going to see that inefficient 17. You're going to see the numbers might not be as high. The counting stats might not be as high, but the efficiency will probably be more. Kylan Boswell coming back, given some physicality. Then you have David Merkovic coming over. He's a physical four-man with some skill. I think you're going to see him do a lot of things there as well. Benham Rikus can make a play with the ball in his hand. He can make decisions. You can line him up in different areas, make decisions. Jake Davis can really shoot the ball coming back from them as well. And Petrovic, older, but he could run a team. He knows how to run a team and give you a different look as the point guard as well. And you have Keaton Wagler, who has a high upside as a player when it comes to the freshman coming in at 6'6" guard. Lots of talent on this team, lots of depth, lots of size, positional versatility, and you have a lot of guys who can both stretch the floor while also making plays with the ball in their hand. I really like the makeup of this team on paper when it comes to the depth of the team, when it comes to the different looks they can give and the offensive firepower they can have coming across 5 different positions.
Yeah. At number 5, I have Michigan State. I don't know if you filled out your whole thing, if you have Michigan State at 6, 7, 8, 9. But I have Michigan State there. So real quickly on them, it starts with Fears at point guard. I just am very, very bullish on him setting the floor for this team and kind of setting the foundation for what they can be for the rest of the year. Obviously, Cohen Carr, a dynamite athlete, extremely fun player to watch. Jackson Kohler. They also returned Carson Cooper, who should play a lot more minutes this year. I will say I have them 5. I maybe would have considered them top 4, but I think at least in my head, there's a tier break after 4. I would have considered them higher if Caleb Glenn from FAU was healthy. He's out for the season, averaged 12.5 points per game for FAU last year. So that's a pretty big hit to them. But in terms of coaches that I believe in and coaches that I know are going to get the most out of the team, Michigan State is and Tom Izzo, that's it for me. Trey Fort coming over from Stanford's the big transfer portal addition, 14.5 points per game, 38% from 3 out in the off-guard spot. So, again, if they had Glenn, I'd be pushing even higher maybe, but I'm going to put them at 5 right now just because I believe in Tom Izzo and what he has there.
For me, I like the Tom Izzo team. I'm going to be curious as to who steps up and who takes the offensive who takes the offensive load there. They have a handful of guys that are experienced. They had a good run last year, but they need a handful of guys to also take steps. So I'm going to be curious to see Tom Izzo, obviously one of the best coaches of the game. So he's going to maximize what he has. Eager to see what it looks like.
And you have Indiana at 5.
For me, it's Indiana.
Go ahead.
I just looking through this roster, looking at this team, looking at how DeVries has done in the past. I just really like the makeup of this team. I think they have depth. I think they go too deep across the board. And I think they have a lot of spacing and a lot of positional versatility that they're going to be able to play through. I think it all starts with at the point of attack with Connerway. I think he's going to be able to heat the ball up and really both touch the paint on the offensive end and really defend at the point of attack on the defensive end. And then kind of looking across their lineups, the 2, 3, and 4, you have Lamar Wilkerson, Nick Dorn, DeVries, and then Josiah Miles, who can all play across each one of those 3 positions, the 2, 3, or 4, and shoot the basketball. They can all create offensive advantages or pull gravity when it comes to playing across those lineups. And then at the 5, you have Sam Alexis, who transferred in, who's a very intriguing defensive presence. He's able to slide his feet. He can do a little bit of stuff as a weak side shot blocker. But he's a fluid athlete who has in low volume shown that he can stretch the floor a little bit as well. And then you have Reed Bailey, who at Davidson this past year showed that he can make a decision with the ball in his hand at the 5. And you can run some offense through him and off of him while also stretching the floor as well. Josh Harris also is a young guy coming from North Florida who can create advantages on the block. Has a very intriguing game, 15 feet in from the basket. Connor Season coming in, who's played a lot of point guard, just an experienced college basketball player. Get the ball in the right spots, takes care of possessions. Looking across this Indiana team, looking across the lineups, they can go multiple with guys who can be fluidly throughout the 2, 3, and 4 spots while having fives who can make plays with the ball in their hand and switch and defend in Alexis, and ones who can heat the ball up at the point of attack as well. I'm very intrigued by this Darian DeVries team and the look that they can give, the offensive output that they can give, and the different looks, the multiplicity that they have when it comes to the people they can put on the floor, along with length and positional size as well.
Yeah, Indiana was going to be my sleeper pick. And then Jamie before the pod says, yeah, they're my number 5 team. So I was like, oh, okay. So you love them even more than me. Yeah, I was going to have them in that like 7 to 8 range. 5 is high, but it's not unreasonably high. I think it's very much in the cards that this offense just clicks. And as someone who covered Lamar Wilkerson from afar in terms of like just Texas basketball podcast, watching Lamar Wilkerson grow into this player, I think he's going to be awesome. So always rooting for him, and we'll see how Indiana does. But
the great thing too about this team is they don't need these guys, all of them, to individually reach their ceilings because they have the depth. So if these guys can kind of give in their minutes what they're able to give, they can ride the hot hand and kind of go with that as well. So it's just a very intriguing, I think, roster makeup.
For sure. All right, well, let's get to our sleeper picks here. I'm going to go first. I have Maryland. Give me Buzz Williams' team. I've seen a lot of projections that have them at like 12, 13, the bottom of the Big Ten. And some of them, I read the blurbs, and some of them are like, well, they don't have shooting. And I had to just think for a second, and then I went and looked to make sure that I was right. Buzz Williams' teams can never shoot. I don't know. I don't know what we're expecting here. Buzz Williams' teams don't win games by shooting threes. They win games because they have Solomon Washington down there who's going to elbow a bunch of people in the chest, and then Pharrell Payne's coming down there, and he's going to rebound the hell out the ball. And they have those two at the very least. And, I mean, even Miles Rice coming over from Indiana, I think, is a very solid player at the point guard position that can give them some offense at times. Now, Buzz Williams, obviously offensively, the ball can stick at times. Like I said, they're not a great shooting team. So I understand on paper in a conference that we anticipate being, better than last year, or at least I do, in terms of the talent and like how good this conference is. I can understand where maybe they're not a top 7, top 8 team, but like 13, 12, like not making the tournament for Buzz Williams' team. I feel like people will in the Big Ten will really quickly realize it's not fun playing Buzz Williams teams, and that's just what it is. And so now even like Elijah Saunders coming over from Virginia, Isaiah Watts coming over from Washington State, I think is a huge gift for them. Obviously 11 points per game. So they have enough talent here to pair with what I think is going to be obviously a high-level team defensively and rebounding, just because that's what Buzz Williams does at every single stop. I think he sets a very, very high floor for every program he's at. It's just reaching the next level that I think can frustrate fans at times. But, I mean, give me Maryland to be a top. There's 18 teams in this conference. I think they're in the top half. Give me them to be finished top
9. For me, Northwestern. Chris Collins' team, I really like the makeup of what he put together with this team. Obviously, losing Brooks Barnheiser to the NBA draft, now getting minutes with Oklahoma City. What you see with this team, they return Nick Martinelli 20.5 points per game. But 2 transfer portal additions that I really like, bringing in Max Green from Holy Cross, who averaged close to 15 points per game this past year, shot 38% from 3. But he's somebody that can showed as a freshman this past year he's able to have the ball in his hands and kind of create advantages. So very eager to see how they utilize him, playing him on ball, off ball, and being able to kind of run some offense through him. And then Jaden Reed, the true point guard coming in USF this past year, averaged 12.5 points per game, over 3 assists as well. 5'10" point guard, out of New York. He's kind of a more traditional point guard as well, has a lot of toughness and grit to him at the point of attack. So you have those three. They give you unique scoring looks. They give you unique scoring ability with three guys on the floor who can create offense as well. Hoping for a step from KJ Wyndham coming back for his next year. Arrington Page, a former four-star recruit, 6'11", who's got some pop to his game as well, being able to guard at the basket. And then you have an intriguing freshman coming in, Tyler Kropp, Trey Singleton as well. Both guys who can create, in the 6'6", 6'7" range, who can create advantages with the ball in their hand and what they do on the floor. Very multiple type of offense. I think what you're going to see in the Big Ten this year, and Northwestern kind of runs in this as well, is you can see some very expansive offensives that are being run. Some very intriguing type stuff that a lot of fluidity, a lot of skill, a lot of decision-making coming from atypical guys. It's not necessarily coming from the point of attack every time. It could be coming from more traditional 2 3s, 4s, 5s throughout this entire league. I think Northwestern falls into that. Very, very intrigued to see what they do coming back. Max Green, what he's able to bring in. Nick Martinelli, if he's even able to take another step. I mean, 20.5 points per game this past year. Is there more in there? KJ Wyndham a step. Jaden Reed coming in with that toughness and grit at the point of attack too. I really like the makeup of this Northwestern team. The thing of it is, looking through this entire league, I like the makeup of a lot of these teams. So it was very difficult. I think 1 through 3 was there. It was really difficult starting at 5. I think the 4, I think Illinois was clear at number 4, but 5 through about 13 really could go any which way with a number of teams there. You have the Iowas of the world. You have the Michigan States that you mentioned of the world. You have the Nebraskas of the world, the Northwesterns of the world,
USC,
Wisconsin. The list goes on of this league, the depth that it has of a whole bunch of teams that are going to be right there on the bubble. And one win or one loss in January, one league win, one loss could really tilt this entire conference. So it's going to be fascinating to see the Big Ten this year. It's going to be fascinating to see Ohio State's another team that's very interesting. They have, Junie Mobley, Devin Royal, Bruce Thornton coming back. That's neither here nor there. We could spend 2 hours talking about this Big Ten team because of the intrigue that all of these teams have. And it would not surprise me to sit there and see this top 5 have 4 new teams be in this top 5 coming toward the end of the season, or 3 new teams coming at the end of the season. It's a fascinating league. But I like Northwestern as a sleeper, as a team to watch. Not many people are talking about.
Yeah, I think last year the SEC separated itself. This year on paper, we did our SEC preview. We're doing the Big Ten preview now. I think these conferences are really close, on paper this year. I don't see them being SEC is gonna blow them out the water again and get 13 bids, while the Big Ten only gets 8 or 9 or something like that. I think both of them should get 12. On paper, if we're projecting it, we'll see how it plays out. But I wouldn't be surprised if both of them got 12 bids this year. And
it just depends on how the bubble flows. I mean, because the thing about having the depth of that is that somebody's got to lose the games.
Yeah.
If one team who could be a very good team loses more games than they should, or has one game in January, February that just it could put them on the wrong side of the bubble. That's the most intriguing part about this is so many bubble teams in this league.
Yeah. All right. Freshman of the year. I'm going to let you go first because I have 2 names written down. And this isn't like we did the ACC, we did the SEC, where it's oh, yeah, we just have these guys that are going to be top 5 picks in the draft. So in my head, it was easy. This one, you got to dig a little bit. So I'm going to let you go first because I have 2 names.
For me, there's only one name. I think this will be a pretty easy. I think he'll lead in this from the start to finish. Caden Mingo at Penn State. I think he's going to come in with the ball in his hand. I think he's going to have every opportunity to put up numbers. I think he's going to have stretches of growing pains, but I think he's also going to have a lot of success this year. He's a 6'2", 6'3" guard out of New York. He's comfortable on ball, off ball. He can create offense. He really, really defends at the point of attack. And he's going to be somebody that scores numbers. I think this Penn State team is one that could be very interesting. I think a lot of what they're going to do is going to be around Caden Mingo. But I think Caden Mingo will be the freshman of the year in the Big Ten from start to finish. And I don't know, there might be 1 or 2 other guys that enter the conversation, but I think Caden Mingo is primed to have a very good year this season for Penn State.
Yeah, I was looking. Obviously, he is going to have the ball in his hand a ton, and he's going to put up good numbers. I have 2 other ones here. David Merkovich for Illinois. You mentioned. Now the question is statistically what it looks like for him, but I think being a real contributor on a team that I have third in the conference, I think is going to maybe swing some people here. And if he has the year that I think he could have in terms of like, I mean, I watched him in the exhibition, then I watched some other like tape of him internationally, and you're like, okay, the ball in the hand stuff really makes sense. And then you see him hit threes, and you see he can score at different levels at different paces. It's really impressive to me to watch Merkovich, and I think for this Illinois team, I just think he would make sense for him to come in and play. I don't know. What do we think? Like 15 to 18 minutes per game?
Well,
Like I
I'll
don't.
tell you, for him, what he brings is a physicality to this team as well. Yes, he's
Mhm.
got the skill and all that stuff, but in this makeup of this Illinois team, he brings a physicality, I think, that's going to be very interesting to see
Yeah.
within the makeup and kind of how that could possibly be tough to take off the floor.
Yeah. So that was one of my picks. And then I had to throw in Hans Steinbeck from Washington, who, man, I just continued to watch his stuff. And at the U19 over the summer for Germany, averaged like 17 and 9, an incredible rebounder. Then I watched his exhibition stuff from last week, and he's grabbing rebounds. He high points the ball very well, finishes everything. Him and JJ Mandequit, who Mandequit, I think you can throw in if you're doing like a top 5 freshman here. He's in that conversation. They play off each other just really well. Washington is a team that I mentioned like earlier in our pod, earlier in the month or maybe last month, in terms of teams that just intrigue me. And Steinbeck and Mandequit, like those freshmen that Washington have, will help them a lot. And Steinbeck, I just think he's so polished right now, and he's going to put up real numbers for Washington this year. So those are the other two picks for me.
If
I think,
somebody's going to challenge Mingo, for me, Hans Steinbeck's that guy.
yeah,
I think I said that Mingo should run it from start to finish. I think that those two will be a two-person race throughout the
Steinbeck
year.
could put up real numbers. I'm curious
Yeah.
what it looks like, but I mean, in the exhibition, he was. I forgot what the numbers were now that I clicked off of it when I was watching it earlier today. But yeah, he can really go. So it's going to be interesting to see, and especially if Washington makes a little push towards like top 10, if they make it like a tournament team. I don't know. I think team success in my head somewhat factors into it if it's competitive or if it's close. So we'll see. But
Keaton Wagler's another name to watch for Illinois as well. I'm not sure he'll quite get the run this year, but he's a freshman to watch.
yeah. All right, coach of the year. I got Dusty May. I know it's boring when you just take the team that's number one, but I think if he wins the conference, when Purdue is projected by a lot of people to win it, I think it's going to surprise some people. And especially at this point, if they win the Big Ten, that means they're like a top 3 team in the country probably. And at that point, I just have a hard time not giving it to Dusty May of Michigan. So that'll be my pick.
Spot on. No notes on that. Dusty May for me as well.
Easy. All right, player of the year. I'm curious. I assume we have the same player of the year, or who do you have?
Yaxel Lindenberg for me.
Me too. Yeah, no notes, like you said. Now, again, Braden Smith, best point guard in the country. I think he can do a lot of things for Purdue. If Michigan wins the conference, like we said, which I'm projecting, I'm going to have Dusty May coach, and I think Yaxel Lindenberg is going to absolutely kill people and just dominate.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think he along with Cooper Flagg was the only player in the country to lead his team in all 5 counting stats: points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. This past year, coming into this Michigan team, obviously, predicted to win the conference. They're going to be deep, but I think everything's going to be kind of run through him. He's going to be able to put up the stats. I think he's going to find the efficiency. I think he's going to have the big matchups, big showcases. I think he's got the skill, the ability, the experience, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much there. With Yaxel, I think he's going to end up being the guy. Shout out to Rink Mast at Nebraska. Shout out to Bennett Sturts at Iowa.
yeah.
I think those are two guys that could be intriguing, especially if Iowa and Nebraska are able to creep into that top 5, which is very
Yeah.
possible. I think Rink Mast is in for a big year. I think Bennett Sturts is in for a big year. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Braden Smith is the number 1 point guard in this conference as well. But I think Yaxel Lindenberg is the one to circle as preseason player of the year.
Yeah. Shout out Donovan Dent, UCLA. If he puts up 20-7 again, he put him in the conversation too. But there you go. There's our Big Ten preview. We are a week away from games starting, Jamie, and we can finally talk about the actual basketball on the court instead of projecting. But yes, there we are. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. Check out the other conference previews on the channel. On later this week, we will have our national, Final Four projections, Coach of the Year, Player of the Year projections, all that stuff, and then we're going to talk about some of the games we're excited to see in week 1. So thank y'all for joining us, and we will talk to y'all later.